Hi, everyone. We will get started in just a few minutes. We'll let people start to trickle in. I'm going to give it just maybe one more minute and then we'll get started. So thanks for everyone for joining. We will be starting the webinar in just about a minute. Okay, let's get started. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I'm Ellen Canali. I'm the head of communications here at the Stellar Development Foundation. We're excited to kick off the webinar for our quarterly report, Q3 in review. And with that, I'm going to just quickly go through today's agenda. So first, our CEO and Executive Director, Denelle Dixon, will recap some noteworthy highlights from the quarter. Justin Rice, our VP of Ecosystem, will go over network stats. Denelle will come back and cover North Star 1, which is about building towards a future-proof and sustainable Stellar, and North Star 2, around how we are focusing on everyday financial services. Jordan Edelstein, our Chief Marketing Officer, will take us through North Star 3, how we're ensuring a trustworthy technology stack that advances adoption. And we also have a special guest today. SDF's new Chief Business Officer, Raja Chakravorty, is with us. And you'll get to meet him and learn a little bit about him and what he will be handling here at the Stellar Development Foundation. Remember, we will leave time at the end for questions, and the earlier you ask, the more likely we'll be able to get to them. So please submit them throughout the call using the Q&A menu option in Zoom. That is the agenda. Denelle, take it away.
Well, hello, everyone. It's great to be here. Thank you for joining us. We're coming to you in the middle of a crazy busy fall with lots of great quality time and shared progress together. So I'm going to recap a few of the highlights. First, we surpassed 9 million addresses on Stellar, which is awesome. Another strong quarter for the enterprise and matching funds, which invested over $5 million in both exciting newcomers and also some longtime ecosystem partners building the next chapter of financial services. The Stellar Community Fund launched version 6.0, resulting in the most submissions ever received. We saw many of you in person at Meridian just a few weeks ago, where nearly 700 folks converged in London to recap the transformation Stellar is making on everyday financial services. More on Meridian in just a bit. And as we saw at Meridian and beyond, the Stellar ecosystem wallets are making a splash in the real world, opening up a gateway to financial access for a new wave of users. but more on that in a bit. First, here's a quick reminder of our current roadmap and our North Stars. The involvement of many of you will help drive toward a future-proof and sustainable Stellar. Second, SDF prioritizes the focus on everyday financial services in pursuit of our mission. And finally, SDF's contributions in building a trustworthy technology stack advances adoption. So these North Stars continue to guide us closer to SDF's mission of enabling greater access to the financial system by redefining who has access to everyday financial services. So before I hand it over to Justin, I want to take a few minutes to introduce our community to SDF's new Chief Business Officer, Raja Chakraborty. Raja is bringing 2 decades of experience driving the business through strong partnerships and alignment in the financial space. He previously led Universal Access at Plaid, a leading financial data network company, driving product partnerships, technical scaling, and business development across thousands of fintechs and financial institutions. He also built and scaled Root Enterprise with a focus on B2B solutions and drove revenue growth and partnerships for PayPal's North American business. Needless to say, I'm super happy to have Raja on board. Hello, Raja.
Hi, Denelle, and thanks so much. It's been just about a month since I joined SDF, and it's really been an amazing journey so far. I've had the opportunity to meet the broader team across the San Francisco and New York offices. I've engaged with a ton of the ecosystem when I traveled to London for Meridian. I've talked with a number of partners, prospects, and interested parties in Las Vegas for Money 2020, which was just last week. In fact, I was actually at an industry conference in New York just earlier today, and I can confidently say that the best part of what has only been about a month is meeting many of the folks building on the network, learning about what they're building and how it helps their customers, and finally, why they chose Stellar. From my perspective, the best way to join an organization is to dive right in, and I'm really excited to get deeper.
Well, that is awesome. Maybe, Raja, you can share with everyone on the call today just a few things about you. What drives you, and how do you intend to drive success at SDF?
Yeah, well, for me, it starts with a mission. And SDF's mission to create more equitable access to the global financial system using blockchain directly aligns with my goals to drive greater access through innovative technology. As the child of parents who immigrated from India, I saw firsthand the challenges they faced, from accessing affordable credit to sending money home. I mean, these experiences have fueled my passion to make financial services more inclusive and accessible. I've been fortunate to lead cross-functional organizations across multiple companies using innovative technologies to create broader access. From payments innovation to data-driven underwriting and novel credit expansion to open finance and connected data platforms, I've had the opportunity to see innovative technologies create meaningful impact for businesses and consumers. I spent the majority of my career driving significant business outcomes across the value chain through partnerships, channel sales, and direct sales. And I'm excited to bring an execution focus to the business efforts here at SDF and drive meaningful outcomes for everyone across the Stellar ecosystem.
Well, we're so excited to have you. One thing Raja didn't mention is the fact that he just completed the New York Marathon last week on Sunday. So congratulations to you for that one. He killed that. And thanks for hopping on to talk with us today. And can't wait for you to be presenting with us next time. So now I'm going to kick it over to Justin to walk through network stats.
Awesome. Thank you, Denelle. Thanks, Raja. Hi, everyone. I'm Justin Rice. I'm VP of Ecosystem, and I'm here to share a look at some key network stats. This quarter, we're actually going to do something new. We're going to take a look at some of these metrics within the context of the broader industry to see how Stellar stacks up against the competition. But first, let's look at the regular numbers. We'll start by checking in on total addresses on the network. At the end of Q3, there were 8.9 million addresses on the network, and as of now, there are over 9 million. 9 million. That's lots of new users, bringing us very, very close to cracking an entirely new digit. Now, what can these nearly 10 million addresses access on the network? One big category, real-world assets. Things like stablecoins, including USDC and EURC, the Franklin Templeton Benji and Wisdom Tree funds. At the end of Q3, real-world asset supply on the network hit $590 million worth, and it's continued to increase since then. Right now, it's actually over $606 million worth. Next, let's take a look at real-world asset payment volume, something we choose to track because Stellar was designed to improve the global payments landscape. Now, in Q3, the real-world asset payment volume was $3 billion worth, up over $1 billion since Q2. So this quarter, more addresses, 9 million. accessing more real-world assets, $606 million worth, and making more payments, $3 billion worth, which is exactly the kind of thing that we hope to see. And that brings us to our next metric, total volume of these real-world assets plus XLM. So the combo of assets that are tethered to real-world financial instruments or that have actual network utility. Q3 payment volume of these assets was $4.8 billion worth. So that's the $3 billion I mentioned plus payments in XLM. And Q3 decentralized exchange volume, which measures all trades that make use of Stellar's built-in order books and liquidity pools, was over $117 million worth. Together, that brings us to this number, around $4.9 billion worth of total volume. Next, total operations. So operations on Stellar are functions that change the state of the ledger. Payments, trades, smart contract invocations. These are actually the equivalent of what most networks call transactions. So Stellar operations, kind of like transactions, right? This number measures throughput. It tells us how many things happen on the network. And in Q3, there were a lot. There were 650 million operations. And that puts the total number of operations the network has processed since its inception at over 17 billion with a B. So that is a long, long history, many, many transactions, lots and lots of throughput. The last set of metrics measure the decentralization of the network. So for past quarterly reviews, we actually used a community data source to supply the total node count. But this quarter, we decided to use an updated survey feature that we built into Stellar Core to get a more accurate count. And the results were surprising in a good way. So before we thought there were 147 network nodes, but it turns out there are actually 476. With that clear view, it's apparent there's actually more network participation than we ever accounted for. And that's great, right? More participation helps with the health and longevity of the network. And it indicates that a lot of projects are engaged enough with Stellar that they actually opt to run their own network infrastructure. Now, 23 of those 476 nodes are categorized as tier 1 validators. So they meet high operational standards. They've earned a high level of network trust. They're essential to network health and resilience. Now that there's more network participation than before, though, that number will probably increase. So keep an eye out. And finally, average ledger close time, that was about 5.78 seconds. It's kind of a no news is good news situation. Good. Tick-tock, clockwork, network goes. But now, as promised, let's look at some comparative network metrics. So we're actually going to hold Stellar up against some other chains we consider competitors: Celo, Ethereum, Polygon, Sui, and Solana. And we're going to smooth out some slight differences in chain vernacular, right? So as I mentioned, Stellar operations equate to most chains call transactions. So that's the word I'm going to use, transactions. And that's just in order to make these comparisons as apples to apples as possible. So let's look at some apples. At the end of Q3, there were 8.9 million Stellar addresses, as I mentioned. That puts Stellar 5th in terms of total addresses. I also mentioned 650 million Stellar transactions in Q3. That puts Stellar 3rd for transactions processed in the quarter. Next, let's look at those RWAs, those real-world assets. Now, according to RWA.xyz, which tracks on-chain RWAs, Stellar holds the number 2 spot for tokenized securities. Now, that's actually across all chains, not just the select group of 6. Stellar has over $420 million worth of on-chain tokenized treasuries at the end of Q3. And also, according to RWA.xyz, Stellar's total RWA market cap, they use that includes those treasuries, but also commodities, corporate bonds, and stablecoins, was over $590 million worth at the end of Q3. That's top 10 overall. That's number 3 within our comparison group. For on-chain payments, so not just raw operations, but specifically payments, Stellar comes in 2nd amongst this group with 103 million payments in Q3. And all these competitors, except for Ethereum, they tout cheap fees. But Stellar really does beat them all, once again, with the lowest fees in Q3. In fact, the average fee on Stellar was just 0.000014 cents. That's 4 zeros. Definitely the least expensive chain. Finally, and appropriately, let's end with block time and finality. So Stellar is in 5th in terms of ledger close time with 5.78 seconds that I mentioned as the average ledger close time. By design, it requires 0 seconds to finality, so it can't be bested without upending the space-time continuum. 0 seconds to finality. Check out the Stellar Consensus Protocol paper for more info on that. That is a wrap for network stats. Over to Denelle for the next round of updates. Denelle.
I'm just so happy that you figured out a way to add in the space-time continuum. We should talk more about that. Okay, so let's talk about the first North Star, which points out that the open participation that we have on Stellar and innovation and governance are necessary to really ensure a future-proof and sustainable Stellar. The more people building to support Stellar to make it grow, the better it is for the ecosystem at large. So we're seeing that smart contracts have welcomed a new wave of development, growth, and adoption of Stellar, and they're accelerating the future, we think, of everyday financial services for more and more real uses all around the world. So what's new in Q3 with Soroban adoption? SDF continues to fund developers as they learn and tinker and build and test and launch and scale their projects. Throughout Q3, we saw 451 SCF program applicants. 35 Soroban projects were awarded over $2.2 million worth of XLM. So we're really, really excited about this new phase of SCF. It funds the most projects of any funding source at SDF and is responsible for a lot of the growth of the Stellar ecosystem by attracting new builders and expanding solutions being built on Stellar. It's also important to note, SCF works directly with the community to vote on award allocation. It streamlines program structure and makes governance decisions. This community-centered approach reinforces Stellar as an ecosystem where community inputs really matter. So start going and being a part of SCF if you haven't already. If you're out there looking to build something real, there's funding and support and a welcoming community waiting just for you. So next, let's recap how that community has been growing and building this quarter. One of the goals in Q3 was to really increase ecosystem interoperability and visibility so that Soroban protocols work together and people can see their growth. So I'm happy to report that we're seeing progress on this. 5 protocols are now tracked on DeFi Llama. Protocols have begun to rely on each other as infrastructure. For example, FXDAO is utilizing Aquarius as its primary liquidity venue for its users. And the first protocol crossed 5 million in TVL, that's Blend, and 2 others crossed the 1 million mark. Total Soroban TVL grew 250% by the end of Q3 from 2 million to 7 million. Builder education has rapidly scaled up and seen significant growth, and dev engagement bringing together builders from around the globe is really also important and a really big step of what happened in Q3. The first 2 hacker houses in collaboration with Draper University focused on Soroban, where they wrapped up this quarter. This was an intensive residency that convened 30 founders and builders from 12 countries in real life in Silicon Valley. And in addition to capital, they got access to company building workshops and a network of industry expert mentorship. It culminated in a demo day, which I was at, and it was really fun. The value of these in-person experiences is kind of unmatched. This residency allows entrepreneurs to meet future co-founders, investors, and advisors and work on site in an environment that fosters community and lasting connections. The accelerator component of the Draper U program, it's going to kick off really soon. We also saw great participation and impact at other events such as SheFi Summit at ETHCC, Grants Funding Forum, also at ETHCC, and a roadshow of events led by Rise in India and DFS Labs in West and East Africa. This progress and growth encompassing new projects, new builders, new volume, and new users is so awesome to see. We rode this momentum into the start of Q4 at Meridian, and we'll talk more about all things Meridian in just a bit. But now some updates on how Soroban functionality and scalability has been expanding in Q3. The objectives for Soroban development this quarter were to increase the usability and ease of adoption for users and applications building on Soroban and increase the capabilities and capacity of Soroban. Since the release of Protocol 21 at the end of Q2, which enabled passkeys, we've seen new and interesting experiments built using this very functionality. Work is wrapping up on Protocol 22, which will add, among other things, support for BLS functionality, which is sort of a building block that will enable a number of new security and privacy preserving features to be built on the network. This is key foundational work, which will support the future scalability of Soroban, including work on state archival, which we covered last quarter, along with optimizations to the WASM runtime, which will allow us to be more efficient in the ways we process transactions on the network. As we march toward Protocol 22, we're approaching a feature-complete state for all major Soroban functionality, and that just makes me so happy. Work has already begun to shift focus towards increasing speed, performance, and scalability to really support a growing ecosystem of everyday financial services and the users who are going to rely on them. So we'll continue to collaborate with the ecosystem and to identify new features to propose and build in the open together as a community. Moving along to the next North Star, let's go over what we're doing to focus on everyday financial services. As we covered earlier, tokenization on Stellar stays top of mind. And as real-world assets, or RWAs, continue to heat up, Stellar continues to be a leader in this category. Franklin Templeton's Benji investment platform, built on Stellar, reached an all-time supply high of roughly 450 million. Stellar USDC reached an all-time supply high of 294 million, with total asset holders exceeding 315,000. So on Bloomberg, I had the opportunity to discuss blockchain technology solving everyday challenges for refugees and everyday people alike with stablecoins and through the upcoming transparent network in Ukraine. Positive coverage by national media outlet lends a ton of credibility and awareness to the impact of the Stellar ecosystem, the utility of stablecoins, and the need for the regulatory clarity from policymakers in the United States. These are just a few examples of how we're expanding access to trusted versions of widely used currencies and real-world assets on Stellar. Now, let's take a look at ramps and wallets, one of my favorite topics, key components and differentiators that drive utility on the network for real-world users. The MoneyGram Access solution continues to bring new players and users onto Stellar. 4 new wallets certified live with MoneyGram Access: Ijara, Espresso Cash, TrueBit, and MoneyFlap. 5 new wallets were signed and kicked off with MoneyGram Access: Arculus, CoinsPH, Alpay, Clickle, and ZiptoPay. And leading digital dollar account app and longtime ecosystem partner AirTM continues to drive growth in Q3 with significant new accounts and consistent use of Stellar-based assets. It's really been a really strong quarter for Stellar wallets. It was awesome to see 3 new wallets join the Stellar ecosystem while at Meridian. MoneyGram, a 77-year-old legacy company, officially launched MoneyGram Wallet. They launched the pilot last year at Meridian, and it's awesome to see this one pull through. Tala unveiled a crypto wallet built on the Stellar blockchain. The wallet enables Tala customers to have autonomy over their digital currencies. And we announced the project what we've been working on for creators, the Akuna wallet, a blockchain-powered digital wallet designed for the creative economy, and it's set to launch its pilot in Ghana. This was only an idea last year at Meridian, and it's really cool to see it come to life. So along with the new wallets launching, we continue to see rapid innovation happening in existing wallets, including smart wallet passkeys, instant USDC chain swaps, gasless transactions, advanced searchability, DEX integration, global banking wraps, and bill pay. Taken all together, the ecosystem of Stellar wallets and their innovations are clearly building for the real world and to solve the real world problems. Wallets are the entryway for new users and will be the catalyst for mass adoption. I've been saying this for years, and I can say with confidence, it's all happening on the Stellar network. Okay, moving on. It was a strong quarter for investment. In Q3, we made a $4 million investment in Shift Markets, whose crypto as a service technology allows anyone to commercialize digital assets and is accelerating infrastructure for bringing the FX markets on chain. SDF also made a $1 million investment into 00 Holdings. It's also known as ARF and Huma, who you've probably heard of, who are pioneering compliant instant liquidity at a large scale for both on and off-chain payment applications. To date, they've enabled over 2 billion on-chain USDC transaction volume on all the Stellar network. This investment will help bring even more new network benefits, including integrating 00 Holdings tokenization protocol and growing the TVL of tokenized PayFi assets on the Stellar network. The SDF Matching Fund also made a $250,000 investment into Blaze, a unified payment app for digital nomads and expats from the US and EU living across LATAM. SDF were early backers of this startup prior to their Y Combinator acceptance, and this investment aims to bring network benefits and growth through the use of USDC on Stellar as the on-chain transaction medium. So it was a great quarter of investments into new and longtime ecosystem partners to ensure that the network continues to grow in new and meaningful directions. Now I'm going to turn it over to Jordan for a look at what we achieved under our third North Star.
All right, thanks, Denelle. So I'll get into what we're doing to build trustworthy technology stack to advance adoption. So first, I'll start with the policy team, which has been very busy working to establish our position as a thought leader on financial access. In Q3, our focus was really on crafting new SDF policy positioning on public blockchains as a form of financial market infrastructure, as well as expanding and deepening relationships with authorities and regulators. Now, in addition to 2 panels at the Point Zero Forum and the Atlantic Council's Geopolitics Summit during the UN General Assembly Week, our Chief Legal Officer, Candace Kelly, who's currently in Singapore, also participated in a panel for the Digital Monetary Institute at the Official Monetary and Financial Institutions Forum, which is known as OMFIF, on benefits and challenges of new market infrastructure and tokenization. Our team also contributed to a thought leadership piece on the use of open source public blockchains to the OMFIF's Fall Digital Assets Report. So they were busy. Then Q3 also saw the launch of the SDF Policy Hub on stellar.org. And it's a place for everyone to learn about the various policy issues and thought leadership that SDF is working to advance. And all these efforts continue to solidify SDF's expertise and presence among both crypto and non-crypto players. This type of exposure brings reputational credibility to the foundation and also reaches new audiences that can facilitate adoption and usage of the network, which is obviously near and dear to our hearts. On the marketing front last quarter, the team worked with an ecosystem project, Decaf, to release a documentary entitled The On-Chain Effect, a Decaf Story. It's a story about residents in a rural Colombian town that are being paid via blockchain with the Decaf wallet app and leveraging Decaf's integration of MoneyGram Access on Stellar. The introduction of blockchain has made a real impact on the town itself with new access to capital. The town's breadwinners are sending their kids to better schools. They're putting money back into their community, which has resulted in economic growth like new businesses opening up. And these are really the kinds of stories that are made possible by the apps built on the Stellar network. And it was really gratifying to be able to tell this one and push back on the narrative that crypto has no utility. We saw the crypto community and social media really pick up on the campaign overall, with retweets, organic posts, and views on the video totaling up to about 75,000. Now, lastly, just a few weeks ago, as Denelle mentioned, we gathered many of you and others in person for our own annual event. So I'm going to break the rules because Meridian happened in Q4, but we're going to talk about during a 2-3 call. So Meridian 2024, it was just an amazing gathering. And so we had an all-time high of almost 700 attendees from all around the world, 90 sessions across 3 stages with more than 130 speakers. And that's in addition to another 90 pitches from Stellar Community Fund builders in terms of what they're building. So the content was just bonkers. This year's theme was transformation. We gathered to talk about our work together as an ecosystem and envision what's next on the path to transforming everyday financial services, and we are off to a great start. So the announcements some of the announcements that came out of the week, we heard from Stripe about their plans to enable payouts on Stellar, and thanks to our work in the aid space, using this to support humanitarian aid work. MasterCard announced that they're going to bring their crypto credential solution to the Stellar network, and it's a product that helps verify interactions among consumers and businesses. We also saw exciting transformations from Paxos, which announced USDL, which is the Lyft dollar. It's a yield-bearing asset that's coming to Stellar. And like Denelle mentioned earlier, we had the launch of 3 new ecosystem wallets, all serving different regions from MoneyGram, Tala, and Akuna. Now, as for data and tooling, we saw the Stellar launch on Dune, which was really exciting. And it further highlights our commitment to bring the tools and insights that the ecosystem needs to build with ease. And right alongside tooling, security is obviously paramount. So having Blockade announce that its security technology is coming to the Stellar ecosystem was a really exciting step. So Meridian was bigger and better than ever. I can't wait to see how it will top next year. Well, I can kind of wait because I'm still a little tired from the last one, but we're excited for next year. And so with that, I'll close and hand it back to Ellen for the Q&A.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. So we do have some questions that have come in. Let's start with our first one, which is, we are a startup and we need your services. How can we contact you in order to collaborate? Justin, Raja?
Sorry, I was looking for my mute button. Yeah, it's a great question. Obviously, Stellar is a great ecosystem for startups to enter into. There's a lot of support, there's a lot of information, there's a lot of different projects that you can collaborate with. The best way that I think to get started is actually to take a look at communityfund.stellar.org to look at all the programs that the Community Fund offers. I mean, the Build Award alone has given away hundreds of projects grants this year. And if you apply that process, it turns them around really, really fast. It like really helps onboard projects at scale. So if you take a look at that, and for instance, if you apply for a Build Award, generally you find out with, there's the throughput is really fast or high because turnaround time is very fast. There's monthly awards. And even if you apply and you like don't actually merit an award, you'll get feedback that will help you continue to shape your project. The great thing about a program at scale is that it allows so many different projects opportunity to enter into the ecosystem. And so I think that's a really great place to get started.
And just one quick follow-up. If the resources don't answer your question, always feel free to shoot an email to bd-team@stellar.org and we'll get you sorted.
Awesome. Thank you both. One question that has come in is asking a little bit more about the Stripe partnership and how it kind of came to be, and if we could dig into a little bit more of that.
Okay, am I unmuted? Yes, yay. Okay, so we have been working with Stripe for a really long time, and it was great to see earlier this year. I was actually at Stripe's conference when they really talked about the fact that they were now like opening up again to blockchain and to crypto, and it was really awesome to see that. So our teams have been working closely, and during Meridian, Stripe announced payouts on Stellar, and that pay-ins are coming really soon. So we are also supported in their ramp product, and we're working together across Stripe's whole crypto product suite and focusing especially on payouts because that's where we see the most fit and the best potential for success of all of it. So it's really exciting to, I'll just be honest, since they finally get something together with Stripe, because they had stepped away from crypto and blockchain for a while, and now to have them come back this year and make a really concerted effort, it's been really fun to work with them. And I really want to see all of this like take root and grow because I think it's going to be great for the ecosystem.
Awesome. Thanks, Denelle. One question that has also come in is a more general question about the industry and our take on what the Stripe acquisition of Bridge means for the industry. Raja, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, sure. I think just to build on what Denelle said, I mean, first off, I think it's really exciting for the industry. It shows that major players are starting to see real value in stablecoin-based payments. And frankly, I wouldn't be surprised to see more activity coming down the pipe. I think it also shows that Stripe in particular is doubling down on their commitment to crypto, and in particular to the role of stablecoins in everyday commerce. And I think Denelle just walked through some of the announcements that Stripe made at Meridian, which were very exciting. And frankly, I think this acquisition shows really that how seriously they are taking this work. And then I think, just from our perspective, this development is truly great for Stellar and the ecosystem because we have a strong partnership with both Stripe and Bridge. And I think them joining forces just further strengthens this relationship. So overall, very excited.
Awesome. We got a fun one that I'm going to throw to Denelle, which is, Denelle, what is your favorite Stellar wallet?
That's funny. So I'm going to tell you the attributes to my favorite Stellar wallet instead of the one. I think the user experience is super key. I think if we don't focus, and this is one of the things when I first came into this industry, I was like, look, where are our UX designers and why aren't we focusing on what the user wants to see here? Because it was really complicated with wallets at that time. We've seen tons of growth with respect to that in terms of really focusing on user needs and sort of in context messaging to the user about the things they need to do to be able to be successful, particularly as you connect with Sorbonne. And so what I love to see is a great user experience. I love to see send and receive is always has to be, in my opinion, a baseline start. You need to have that opportunity to be able to do that. Love the virtual accounts connection, because then you can actually have that US dollar account that you can leverage for pay-ins and for also for payouts if you need to. And then finally, I love the wallets that are connected to Sorbonne and the protocols in Sorbonne. So I'm really excited to see more use of passkeys in that too, because I think that user experience is going to be super helpful. So there's not one wallet, because I have to tell you, I probably have like 10 of them downloaded on my phone that I play with all the time, mostly just to see like what people are doing and what's being built. And a lot of these wallets are localized wallets, so not super useful outside the region, but really great in terms of experiencing from the user side what we want to see.
Anyone else want to weigh in on that one?
I just would quickly say, you know, from a marketing perspective, well, personal use, I also I've got about 5 or 6 of them on my phone. I think in terms of obviously with, you know, being able to work with decaf on that case study just was terrific. And we work with a bunch of wallets in different ways from a marketing perspective, whether it's marketing grants. We've just signed off one for an ecosystem wallet that's about to execute. Featuring, we had Beans was at Meridian with a really fun integration in terms of having people download Beans and being able to pay for coffee using a Beans wallet. So we integrate with different wallets in terms of our marketing and where we feature them. But as we like to say, we love all our children. So different wallets are really strong at different things, and we work with them in different ways.
Great.
I have one more thing that I want to add to this, which is like, I love using all, like, there's so many great Stellar wallets. I love Lobster. I love Vibrant. I love Albedo, Xbull, and Freighter, and all the plugins that like actually just work as Chrome plugins on your browser. But the thing that Denelle mentioned about upcoming developments that's very exciting is with the launch of Protocol 21, we're going to start to see a whole new world of like these smart wallets. They use pass keys that allow you to sign transactions with biometrics. And so one of the most exciting things for me, if you're a developer, is to go look at some of the things that are being done with pass keys. Just like Google Super Peach Stellar, and you'll find a repo of this like demo wallet that starts to actually use passkeys, and you can see the power that they will have in the future as people integrate this new encryption technology that was introduced in Protocol 21 to make this super seamless user experience. So passkey wallets, super cool, coming your way.
Yeah, and I also think that what we're going to start to need to see more of is enterprise-focused wallets that have those tools in them, like multi-sig, to be able to like get the authorizations across like the different groups at a company before transactions are sent. So more enterprise wallets, I think, are going to be also required as we see more of these payouts coming through.
Fantastic. You just got a little bit of everyone on that one. Okay, another question that came in. Stellar at one point took the lead in RWAs versus Ethereum. Do you think Stellar can take the lead again in the future?
I'm going to start and just say the RWAs is going to be a cornerstone of our work for 2025. It already still is in 2024. We've had more assets that are coming into the network. And we have lots of players that we're talking to about building on the network. Do I think we can? Yes. Do I want to? Of course, I want to take the lead, and I want us to be at the top of that leaderboard all the time. And I think so much of it has to do with making sure that it's still really easy to integrate, building tools, even more tools for the parties that are just coming over. You know, the interesting thing that we've learned is a lot of players, they were only building on Ethereum, so they only knew how to really issue this asset in the smart contract. And so now we have the option where you can issue on Sorbonne in a smart contract, or you can still issue on Classic and just use the built-in tools and the protocol. So there's a lot of options. So we see a lot of interest with respect to it. And so, yes, I think we can. I think we not only do I think we want to, I think we need to always be at that and fighting to catch the lead of Ethereum.
Just to add a little context, at a conference I was at recently, there was talk about the ability to tokenize the total $16 trillion traditional market to digital. And while that seems incredibly aggressive, I think the underlying comment and sentiment there is that there's tremendous opportunity that we see in the RWA space. We've had really successful and significant partnerships with Franklin Templeton, with WisdomTree, launching on the network. And certainly there has been a tremendous amount of interest that we are really excited to build upon. Frankly, we think there's a lot of cost savings, and I believe Franklin Templeton's CEO actually had talked about the tremendous savings that happens through the tokenization process as well. And so we're really excited, and it is certainly going to be a focus area for us moving into 2025.
Fantastic. One question that has come in is about the MoneyGram change in leadership. Denelle, do you want to just give a little bit of insight, or at least the question is about, how, if that will change MGI's relationship with SDF and the work that's happening on the Stellar network?
The answer is no. One of the things that has been so great we've worked really closely with MoneyGram and with the other shareholders at MoneyGram to be able to understand MoneyGram's business and to work with the management team. Have a really good relationship with the former CEO, Alex, and also worked very closely in bringing in the new CEO, Anthony Su, who just only started like 8 days ago. So no, there's not going to be any change with respect to our relationship, although there might be a lot more product focus coming out of MoneyGram, which I think is a really good thing for the work that they're doing on Stellar with respect to MoneyGram Access, but also with respect to the wallet. So I'm actually really excited about having a leader at MoneyGram that's product focused, which Anthony is. So I think that that's only a benefit to us in the end.
Great. It's hard for this to be the day after an election here in the U.S. without some questions around the impact on the regulatory environment. So Denelle, we have gotten a couple of questions about just the new possibilities for new regulatory clarity on the horizon now that we might have a more crypto-friendly administration, and what would you be able to achieve with that kind of clarity?
Well, I mean, the greatest thing that I think about blockchain, crypto, and just technology generally is that it should not be based, the success or failure of it should not be based on whatever party happens to be in office, particularly in the US. And that has been an unfortunate thing that we've seen in the United States, where we have seen a lot more friction with respect to the technology in the prior administration or the current administration. Mostly because I think of fear that they didn't understand like how useful this technology could be. And we are, we're seeing at least that we're told, and based on our engagement with the administration that's coming in, and also with those who have already been actors in either in the Senate or the House in the United States that are going to be in power, it's really good to see that they're engaged and really focused on the uses that blockchain has to offer. And there's a lot more openness to the technology. So what I think we're going to see is I think we're going to see those things that we've been asking for, maybe demanding over the last many years, which is stablecoin legislation, and we'll probably see some market structure. So I'm really excited to get that kind of stability. It's going to allow more folks to be able to feel comfortable coming into this ecosystem from a TradFi standpoint, and also just like open us up to be able to be more thoughtful about the uses that this particular technology can be leveraged for. We've always been really good about working with both sides in the United States, and frankly, like globally, we don't actually think that this should ever be a political issue because it's just so valuable to use this technology. But I do love the idea of walking into an environment where we can actually get some things done with respect to stability around the regulation domestically, because I think it's really, 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 really important that the United States show leadership here, and we're behind. And so they need to step up, just because there's so much of this audience that people want to grab even from outside the United States. So I think it's ultimately going to be a good thing just to see where the House and the Senate are leaning. And I think it's going to be useful for us to be able to get this legislation through. So I'm hopeful.
Great. I think we've got time for maybe two really quick ones. One, thank you for everyone's questions so far. We got one about how secure is passkey wallets. Justin, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. Right now, passkeys, the ability to create passkey wallets and to create these smart wallets that use the encrypted enclave on your phone to sign transactions, that possibility is there because the encryption curve that that the passkeys use is built into the protocol. So that like sort of bedrock is there for building. In terms of like actual production smart wallets, there aren't any yet. And that's an opportunity for you if you're a builder. Like there's contracts that you could do that are vault contracts that sort of take that encryption key and build it into different kinds of policies that allow you to sign. And we're just opening up that greenfield now for developers. And I think that once people start to build out that functionality, there's going to be a lot of the same apparatus that we brought to bear on other sort of smart contracts that are built on Sorbonne will come into play. The audit bank, which has allowed all of these different DeFi protocols to get audited, will also likely provide audits for people that are building out smart wallets. And I think that sort of focus on security is something that sets the Stellar ecosystem apart. So I would say that as of right now, there's more of an opportunity than something in production. And if you want to take that opportunity, then there are all these tools that will help you do that and help you do it with like the highest level of security scrutiny.
Thanks, Justin. Okay, last one, rapid fire. What was everyone's favorite session at Meridian? Raja, you're first.
Okay, well, I'm gonna cheat because I'm a newbie, but I basically parked my backside on the third row of the partner stage and just listened to every partner under the sun, which was just incredibly exciting just to understand who's building on the ecosystem. So I would just call it a stage, which was the partner stage.
Jordan?
Mine on the main Stellar Court stage, there was a blockchain trendsetters in emerging markets with folks from Chipper Cash and Owner Free, and just like hearing folks from the local market talk about, obviously everyone focuses on those kinds of markets, but hearing builders from those markets speak it was really illuminating. It was great to hear.
Justin?
I was at the dev stage the whole time, and I would say watch all the dev stage presentations. For me, the two that were tied for best, one was about scaling Stellar Core by Sid Arth, who's on the core team, that had some of the most beautiful diagrams that explain really intense concepts like multi-threading in this like visual way where if you don't get it, you just look at a picture and you'll get it. Beautiful. And the second one was Jake Urban did this sort of security deep dive that really walked through like everything that you can do to write secure smart contracts in Sorbonne, and it's pretty astounding. Those two were great. The dev stage was so good. The amount of attention that went into all the presentations was it just floored me. So those two stand out, but watch them all.
Yeah, and I'll say that he stole it. I was going to say Jake Urban. But when he did the security one, it was just so well done, and the slides are really useful. And I also have to say that I didn't have a lot of time to go sit in, and I wanted to sit in all the other stages and to see what was happening. I did though see one on the main stage that I thought was really interesting when we had reporters talking about like how they have to think and write and talk about blockchain and crypto and how they get their stories. And I found that really interesting because so much of, we sometimes speak in our own lingo. We sometimes don't actually like really engage with like the outside world in a way that makes sense to them. And they have to sort of be that bridge. And so that was really interesting to me too. But I just have to say, I think that having everyone come and so much talent speak on all of these stages is super useful. And I think everyone should try to watch as many presentations as they can, particularly from the builder stage, the dev stage, the partnership stage. I think those are just like really interesting.
Here's a perfect segue to say that those sessions, you can find them now on the Stellar Development Foundation YouTube, and they will be on the Meridian website very soon. So if you weren't able to join us at Meridian and you are interested in listening to any of the folks that were just talking's favorite, or are just interested in watching them all, please go watch, enjoy, because like Denelle said, the talent and the talks were incredible, fascinating, super smart, just a lot of fun. So join us in watching if you weren't able to be at Meridian yourself. And I just want to say thank you, everybody, for joining us. As always, we'll have the webinar recording and full report posted on stellar.org on our quarterly report landing page shortly after this call so that you can follow up if you missed anything or want to rewatch. Follow us on Twitter at stellar.org, of course, for all updates. And we will see you again next quarter. We will see you next year. So we'll see you soon. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks.